Okay, here's part 2 of the news this morning. Now, as I said, I was going to start off this second part with a little bit of a look at what's going on with the US economy. So this has come out that US consumer credit has risen in June. According to the Federal Reserve data released on Monday, total credit increased by 17.8 billion, following the smallest monthly increase since 2020 in the previous period. This figure surpasses the median forecast of 13 billion from a survey of economists and is basically an example of inflation. However, if you look at the GDP of America, it all seems great, that America has more money per capita than any other country by quite a long way, yet the people of America are considerably worse off, living out of credit cards, unable to afford rent, food, driving cars they can't afford and will probably never pay off. This, I think, really highlights why GDP is a rubbish way of determining the state of a country's finances. Moody's has downgraded several banks at once as part of a comprehensive evaluation of growing industry challenges. Moody's Investor Services has downgraded credit ratings for 10 small and mid-sized US banks. Additionally, there is a possibility of further downgrades, including major lenders such as US Bancorp, Bank of New York, State Street, and Truist Financial. High funding costs, potential regulatory capital weaknesses, and rising risks tied to commercial retail, real estate loans amid weakening demand for office space are among strains prompting the review. So, essentially, there's very much a looming banking crisis. And then this, US state banks required to have Fed approval before conducting stablecoin transactions. State banks that are members of the US Federal Reserve System must obtain a written supervisory with no objection from the Fed before issuing, holding or transacting in stablecoins, which is PayPal's newest currency. So what we're seeing here is very clearly that the way the US is portraying itself on the world stage as this thriving economy is actually not reflected in the reality of what's going on for people on the ground. People are going bankrupt, people are defaulting on loans, companies are defaulting on loans, profit margins are shrinking, and even though the GDP of America is great because the military-industrial complex has made loads and loads of money off the taxpayer of America, because that's what's happened. It's been laundered through Ukraine back into the pockets of the military-industrial complex. What this means is that the people in America are poorer, and really we need to adjust the whole idea of GDP so that we can concentrate on what is the reality for people on the ground. Moving forward, we have some issues with a retail estate developer in China. It'll be very interesting to see how they sort this out. I'm sure that they've got a plan. Let's see what they do. Jim Cramer sees more positives than negatives for the market ahead. Meme famous for his stock recommendations coming true the opposite, so the Daily Express of America. Jim Cramer told investors Monday that an economy capable of delivering growth without endemic inflation looms on the horizon. Really, Jim? Really? I don't see that in American stock markets at all, frankly. France tops EU power exporter as Germany shifts to importing. So essentially, Germany has not just turned off, but decommissioned all of its nuclear power stations and is now importing energy from France, which is using nuclear power stations. And the French have now basically lost the relationship they had with Niger in order to get that energy. I can't foresee any problems with that. I'm sure it will all be fine. Japan has banned some cars for Russia, and they've banned the export of cars with engines over 1.9 litres and hybrids. Essentially what this means is that Russia will start making those cars. I mean, that's the reality. As we've seen with the EU, essentially Japan is just sanctioning itself out of a prosperous market. Slow hand clap, Japan. This one was quite interesting. A number of major banks have had to pay fines for doing business on WhatsApp. And essentially, they've been giving away like very important personal information of their customers on WhatsApp and have been caught out by the regulator. Real professional, these guys. So glad we keep bailing them out. US credit card debt surpasses 1 trillion for the first time ever. Again, this just shows that the US economy is in absolute tatters. It's not looking good, and it is a pretty exponential rise, I would say there. It looks like if we're looking at the start of 2023, it was just over 1 trillion, and even now it's 1.5. I mean, this is a steep climb, and this is because people cannot afford to live. US fuel prices have jumped. We did hear this first from US citizens who are followers of my channel, and they told us overnight 50 cents was added to the price per gallon of their fuel. This is a across United States jump here. Quite interestingly, the British could not jump the price of energy up as quickly as they wanted, because the actual stands that we have that tell you how much petrol and diesel costs were not able to display the number 2, and they had to take all the signs down and replace them with ones that could show that it was over £2 for a litre of diesel or petrol, because when they built those signs they had no comprehension that it would ever get to that point. NATO Security General announces visit to Turkey to discuss Sweden's membership bid. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Thursday he would travel to Turkey in the near future to discuss Sweden's bid for membership in the alliance. I'm going to do my best. I always highlighted the importance of making progress on the ascension of Sweden, and I also travel to Ankara in the near future to continue to address how we can the fastest possible ascension of Sweden into NATO. That's my Jens Stoltenberg. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope the Saudis get involved, and take that how you will. Russian GDP has increased by 3.3% in April when compared to the same period of the last year. Obviously, this is a bit of a weird thing to post after I've just pointed out the complete fallibility of GDP, but for those who love it, here you are. And below this it says that industrial production is up and that the Russian economy is due to expand 1.3% in 2023. US not interested in India's strategic economy. India shouldn't become the Ukraine of Asia, i.e. a geopolitical pawn for America to contain China. An Indian geopolitical analyst and writer has told Sputnik. I believe I said that as well when India started pulling away from the idea of a BRICS currency and going out on their own. This is my fear for India, exactly, that they are putting their trust in very much the wrong people, sticking their head above the parapet, and will in fact become the Ukraine of Southeast Asia. EU disappearing as global economic player due to high energy costs. And again, this French guy is basically saying that without Russia, we are unable to compete on a world market. And again, this is something that I've been saying for months now. We are sanctioning ourselves out of decent priced gas, electricity and produce, and it is having a dramatic impact on the European economy. Expect this to be quite a rough winter, guys. Iraq has banned LGBTQ propaganda on social media. I think that's a great call. It will annoy the Americans, though, and hopefully this is the start of a Niger-style situation in Iraq where they start taking their country back from America. Because, trust me, the LGBTQ is just the current American religion. Zionism by another name. There has been a massive uptick in the sales of the Sickle, which is the Russian drone warfare air defense system, and they as expected are widely wanted across the world. Stay tuned for part 3.